So first of all, how many people here are Kubernetes users of some kind? Awesome. How many people here have heard of Kubernetes but are kind of sort of sure what it is? How many people are just here for OAuth and are going to ignore the rest of this cloudy container stuff? That's okay too. There are a lot of, cloudy things in different layers of the stack that we address in this meetup, and you're not required to be interested in all of them. So normally we actually have 2 speakers in the evening. We actually had the original second speaker for this cancel out early, and because of what I'm about to tell you about, I was too busy to seek a second speaker. I mean, we do actually have a number of people propose talks, I just didn't have time to coordinate it. Kubernetes 1.11, the release candidate is actually being released right now. The packages are being built and copied to mirrors, etc. As I speak. There will be probably only one release candidate. Usually we only have one because we've already had a number of betas, etc. The final release is scheduled for June 26th, hopefully. And the reason why I say hopefully is because we still have a number of failing tests, and we think we know why they're failing, but we're not sure we know why they're failing. And if they're actually failing for a different reason, that could result in a delay in the release. And the reason why this is all my concern is actually I'm the release lead for this particular release, which is why I haven't had time to do anything else. For what it's worth, for any of you who are really interested in Kubernetes, the release team has a rotating set of responsibilities because it is a big time consumer, but team members rotate out every 3 months because we release every 3 months. And it actually is a good way to get started with contributing to the Kubernetes community when contributing feature work can be a little bit daunting because of the build and test requirements. Plus we have a whole sort of mentoring pipeline set up with the release team. So anyway, I'm going to talk a little bit about features because I was spending all day looking into tests today, etc. And RC1 is not, the packages were not released yet. I don't have any demos, I'm afraid. I just didn't have time to put stuff together. But to let you know what are the sort of main things that are going to be different about 1.11 in terms of features that are either going into general availability or going into beta and are available by default. So first one, kubedns to core DNS. So one of the things that Kubernetes does as an orchestration system is that it has to provide URIs and naming and discovery services internally to the cluster. And we've gone through a number of different tools to do this, and this is our latest migration. We replaced the default kubedns. It is now by default being replaced with core DNS. The reason why we're replacing that is core DNS is a simpler tool. It's a single Go binary in a minimal container. It's better maintained because it is its own separate Cloud Native Computing Foundation project with a team instead of kubedns, which was kind of maintained by some people in their spare time. However, if you do want this improvement, if you're already running, so how many people are already running a Kubernetes cluster in like production or for staging, something like that, yeah? So if you are upgrading your cluster, it's not going to automatically switch to core DNS. You actually have to do that manually because it could be disruptive. Next one, dynamic kubelet config. This is my personal favorite feature from the release. So the kubelet, for people, again, not familiar with this, that is the individual daemon process that runs on each machine in your Kubernetes cluster that makes it part of a Kubernetes cluster. And then that runs all of the other things that Kubernetes happens to need in that particular node. Now, up until now, in order to make a configuration change to that, like you want to change security, or you want to change volumes, or you want to change which you want to change which shared keys you're using, something like that. In order to make configuration changes to that, the way that you had to do it was basically restart the service with different command line switches. A lot of issues with that. The biggest being that if you have a big Kubernetes cluster, that means you're doing a rolling brownout every time you want to make even a minor configuration change to the way the kubelets in your nodes are running. So, kubelet is changing from command line switches to a configuration file, either loaded dynamically or present on the file system. That configuration file is automatically mirrored into a config map once the cluster is running. And this means that there are a lot of things that you can actually change at runtime without needing to restart the kubelet. I don't have, one of the documentation to-dos is to get a comparison list of these are the things you can change without restarting, these are things you can't change without restarting. But in terms of doing fully automated management of your Kubernetes cluster, this is a big plus. Next, more CRD goodness. So, CRD stands for Custom Resource Definition, which is how you build what are Kubernetes native applications, that is, applications designed to run using all of the Kubernetes tooling as sort of a Kubernetes object. To give you an example of this, I don't know how many people, I demoed kubevert, which is a way to have Kubernetes control VMs in one of these meetups like 6-7 months ago. I don't know how many people were at that, but kubevert is a CRD. That's how it's implemented. And are people, if anybody's familiar with operators, which is a CoreOS thing, and now a Red Hat thing because we bought CoreOS, so we're all in on operators. And operators are also, an operator is a CRD plus even more stuff. So within Kubernetes world, we see this really as the future of how to make applications that are designed to run on Kubernetes, is to go beyond just building containers and to go into actually programming the system you're running on. And for that reason, we've been adding a lot of tooling around CRDs. What's coming out in beta in 1.11 are monitoring endpoints for CRDs. So every CRD now can automatically have an endpoint for status and for resource usage, which will make monitoring them easier. Obviously, old CRDs are going to need to enable these to actually provide any information for them, but a lot of them will be doing that. And the second and even more important feature is CRDs are now automatically versioned. Before, there was no built-in versioning that the Kubernetes controller understood. So doing a rolling upgrade of a CRD required a lot of manual work. And now it'll just be a matter of saying, hey, I want to use version 1.7 of the CRD. And whatever you have as your program for how you replace the individual instances of that across your machines. So so those are both things to actually make this more of a complete application platform than it has been before. One of the ones my coworkers are really excited about, because I know a bunch of the OpenShift people worked on this. By the way, I work for Red Hat. Red Hat's version of Kubernetes that we sell support for is called OpenShift. And they contribute a lot of things to Kubernetes because they want those things in OpenShift. And the big thing that team is excited about, priority and preemption, which is a way to say, hey, I really need to run this service or to run this job on my cluster, even if it means you have to kick already running things off of some of the nodes. Because sometimes you need to run urgent cron jobs that need to run even if it means kicking things off. Sometimes you need to run something to troubleshoot why your cluster is so slow. Why is my cluster overloaded in the first place? And if it's overloaded currently, you can't run that thing except by manually killing off a bunch of stuff first. Or even as a way to push out new versions of things that might be more efficient in order to get the overloading down. Another feature here that I've been a lot less involved in, but people have been very hard on, is enabling Windows native Kubernetes. So Windows has their own container platform, Hyper-V, something like that.
That's a virtualization.
That's
a virtualization.
Oh no, so not the virtualization platform. They have their own container platform.
Docker runs in Windows.
Docker runs in Windows, but they also have this Windows native container thing. Anyway, so there is a team, in the bizarre, twisted world of modern who collaborates on things that is comprised primarily of Microsoft and Red Hat people, that has been working hard on making Kubernetes run natively on Windows. Right now, the way that people deploy Kubernetes on top of Windows OS is they're actually running it in a Linux VM, which obviously has a lot of limitations that people don't like. They have a long sort of to-do list. There's this thing we have called a KEP that keeps track of major meta features that involve a whole bunch of little features to make that possible, and they continue to make really steady progress on that. Last one is, do you have any network geeks in here? Got one network geek there. One of the other things that's gone beta in this release, no, actually gone GA in this release, IPVS load balancing. So if you're running on a system that has a kernel that supports IPVS, which is a way in the kernel to do routing and other virtual network stuff, then Kubernetes can make use of that in order to do things like proxying and load balancing a lot faster. And that's as much as I know about it because I'm not a network geek. I know that the network people are very excited about this feature. I don't really understand it, but if it makes things faster, I'm really good with it. So that's the sort of roundup of features we have coming in 1.11. So if you want to try out 1.11, best way to install it right now is via Kubernetes. Kubernetes is already enabling 1.11 as an installation target as of RC1. I think you have to specify to install version 1.11, but then it'll just go ahead and do it. Might need to wait 24 hours for that because there's still packages to be built, etc. Try out the new features. File bugs if you find them, particularly if you find them before the release, and work on it. So, any quick questions about 1.11 before I get into the rest of the meetup stuff? Okay, you can always ask me later. So, stuff coming up soon for the meetup next month. July 18th. So Kubernetes 1.0 was released at OSCON 3 years ago. OSCON is coming back to Portland. And so during OSCON, we are having a Kubernetes anniversary party run by the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. It will be at a pub somewhere near the convention center. I'm still working out contracts and that sort of thing. But it will involve special guests, including Kubernetes maintainers who are coming here from out of town. We will have a Kubernetes-centric pub quiz with prizes for people who want to test out their cloud-native knowledge. And, of course, free drinks and snacks. So I've put a save the date on our meetup page that is just for you to show your interest. When we actually have all the details worked out, there will probably be a separate sign-up because you'll probably need a ticket you can print out. So we'll probably have an Evite or something. So I will message you through the meetup platform if you sign up for that. Actually, I'll message everybody in the meetup anyway. Then in late July, because that's a purely social event, we also want to have a content event in July. So in late July, and again, I'm still working out the date at which we can have both speakers in the venue, but we will have a meetup that will include Nomad, which is a container orchestration system that's an alternative to Kubernetes, produced by HashiCorp, and the basics of Helm, which is an application installation system for running applications on top of Kubernetes. We're always looking for new speakers. We're always looking for new meetup hosts. I do actually have a whole bunch of people propose talks, but I never stop looking. If you go to the About page for Cloud Native PDX, there is a link to a Google form. That is how I keep track of who wants to host, who wants to speak. Please go ahead and fill that out. So we actually had somebody else had an announcement of another thing happening on July 18th. Who was that? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Grant Thompson. I work for WSO2 as an account manager. Just moved to the Northwest, actually during July 18th. If you guys are in San Francisco, we are working on a Ballerina programming language to make integrations easier. So If you want some more information, go to ballerina.io. But if you're in town, we're having a Ballerina Con July 18th in San Francisco. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you. And by the way, if other people have announcements of events that are in some way related to cloud native something, please, go ahead and approach me at the beginning of meetups. Always happy to take those. So other things. OSCON. So as I mentioned, OSCON is returning to Portland. July 16th to 19th, the OCC. There's going to be a whole bunch of topics that are going to relate to containers and orchestration and DevOps in the cloud and a bunch of other things. That's a 25% off discount code. There are also cards over there, but the cards have a 20% off discount code. So you want to use this one. And there's actually a second reason that you want to use this one. If enough people sign up with this one, I get a free pass or free passes to hand out, which I'll then give to women who code, to give to some of their people. So, and by the way, part of the reason I'm plugging this honestly is that O'Reilly sends me stuff. O'Reilly sponsors meetups. They send me stuff. They sent me some of the speaker gifts, and we also have some books that we'll be giving away at the end of the meetup. And so they've been really helpful about that. We also actually have other books. This is going to be a meetup with lots of books. So if you want books for stuff, hang around. As a matter of fact, the way I'm going to give away my books is I am going to, at the end of the meetup, ask questions about the presentations, just to see if you were paying attention. And whoever answers the most questions that I have will actually get the O'Reilly books. I'll let Aaron determine how he's going to give away his books. Other things, KubeCon Seattle. Again, Kubernetes Con, Cloud Native Con, so that also includes lots of things like Istio and Linkerd and Open Tracing and a whole lot of other projects, is going to be in Seattle. The CFP is currently open until August 12th. For those of you who are actually working on cloudy stuff, I urge you to submit stuff. Now, it is challenging because the conference gets on average 20 submissions for every acceptance. But you never know, because sometimes that thing that you submitted is something that the committee is looking for a talk in that particular topic area, and no one else submitted anything. So you should really try anyway. So there is a whole call for proposals there and that sort of thing. For that matter, I'll say for anybody who belongs to a group that might qualify as an underrepresented minority, there are some scholarships for KubeCon. Okay. So all of that being said, we're going to take a really quick break so people can get additional drinks if they want to, and so that Aaron can set up and once he sets up, I'll introduce him. So 5 minutes, and then we'll be starting the main event. Thank you.